Peace, family. What's up again? It's Tori back with Witness of History, Ferguson 10. Today is a good one, y'all. I'm kind of relaxed a little bit. I got the homie from the crib. I had to put on my little hustle game. Shout out to T.I. Trying to just be solid, supporting black businesses during this time, man. 365. So I am with Revolutionary Reverend. You might know him from Charlottesville. You might know him from Tiny Desk. And if you from the west side of St. Louis like I am, like he is, you might know him from Sodan, or you might know him from Friendly Temple or Martin Luther King, man. Welcome, Reverend Dr. Sekou.
Pleasure to be here, dear brother.
So let's get into it, man.
Yes, sir.
10 years later,
Yep.
August 9th, 2014, changed my life. It was my introduction with no orientation to the movement. We were saying earlier, I don't think I really think about this. August 9th for me was something I know for a fact it was the middle of it. I thought it's time. I was waiting on everybody across the world that views black. I thought she was gonna be outside at least by August 12th. It was gonna look like Ferguson in your city. But it didn't. That's just youthfulness. What was that when you seen
there
it?
were uprisings all over the country and the world. Right? You got to think in Indonesia. Was it Indonesia or Malaysia? There was an uprising and they were doing hands up, don't
China.
shoot.
They was in Hong Kong.
In Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Yeah, all over the world, people responded to it.
Yeah. Earlier in the year, Burkina Faso.
Yeah. And then you think about the movement in Nigeria. And so what we've seen over the last decade is, because Ferguson is just a marker in time, right? Like this is a part of a tradition of a people who've resisted in various forms, right? And so Ferguson is just one of the markers. So we're to use Cedric Roberson's notion of the Black radical tradition, right? He writes that like when that thing in us, right, of resistance in us, right, when it's frustrated, it becomes voodoo. When it's actualized, it becomes the Haitian Revolution. Now, I think that dichotomy has some problems because I think it all happens at once, but I think it gives us a framework to think about. So when you think about Ferguson, right, it's like a frustrated people organizing in such a way that it actually shakes the empire.
Was you in? You wasn't in St. Louis at the time, right?
No, I was at Stanford.
Okay.
So I was pastoring a church in Jamaica Plains, Boston. I was on staff there with my dear friend, Reverend Ashley Weiss Leard at First Baptist Jamaica Plain. And I had like 6 weeks off. I was trying to write this book on Martin Luther King. Because I had met Claiborne Carson, the director of the King Papers in Palestine.
Wow.
And so he was like, come, because I was thinking about King's Marxist politics and that kind of thing, right? Particularly democratic socialism is a better way to think about it, as he writes about it. And so, anyways, I was trying to write this book on King, and then Keeler McDuff, who would do media for us, and Bishop John Selders started texting and saying, hey, man, are you paying attention to what's happening in St. Louis? And I was like, ain't much gonna happen. You're saying this. I was saying this at the crib gonna be the crib.
Yeah.
I was on over about Tuesday. I was like, I better go ahead and make my way home.
So how was it seeing us in the streets, being from her, but not being her, like seeing it on TV and hearing your friends? How was that feeling?
I mean, I was like, oh, there is something here. I'm not sure what it is, but there's something here. and they not going home. I mean, that was the main thing for me. I was
We
like,
wasn't
oh,
going home.
I was like, oh, they not going in the crib.
Yeah. We was already outside.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, they not going home. So I was like, that was clear to me. I was like, that was the main thing. I was like, are they gonna go home? And they wouldn't come home. I was like, so I had lived around the world and been trained by some of the best. And it was my opportunity to bring everything that I had learned in the world and kind of bring it to bear in service of the movement. Yeah.
What? I feel like 10 years later, I'm on that type of time traveling.
Yeah.
It's like once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you see things that resemble it,
Yeah.
you be wanting to pull up. You got to. It's
Yeah.
an obligation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you develop networks. You develop these revolutionary networks, and
Yeah.
people like, hey, come in. We're having a crisis. We know you have a particular set of skills.
Yeah.
Right? Because everywhere I've been, and I've been invited, I never just showed up.
Facts. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm the same.
Yeah.
I've been to Tamir Rice and
Well,
invited.
Yeah.
Australia,
yeah.
Melbourne. It was
Yeah.
it's those things where when they say pull up, it hit.
Yeah.
It make you move because you don't want to be like just pulling up because you feel like some type of way.
Yeah. No, I only go when I'm invited.
Mm.
Yeah.
Is there like a principle? Do you think that
I
those of us should
mean,
be able
I
to?
feel like my grandfather used to have this line. He say, that a scripture he would quote about, "Take not the high seat."
Mm.
Like, don't
ask.
ask him. Wait for him to invite you in,
Mm.
right? Because what you have to offer might not be what the people need, and that's fine, right? So we give because also how I was trained as an organizer.
Mm.
Right, so I come out of I'm trained by the New Left. It's a particular
Okay.
right. So coming out of All African People's Revolutionary Party with Kwame Ture, formerly known as Stokely Carmichael, and here in St. Louis, Bukwe Sakura, right? I came out of that left formation, right, which was Pan Africanist revolutionary, right. But I always had an affinity for base building organizing because of SNCC, right? So Avon Rollins and Ruby Sales. So these my elders, right? So, uh, Gwendolyn Zahora Simmons, these are veterans. And that's right. I'm trained at Highlander at 19. Right. So I'm shaped by a particular tradition, right? Which was that, you're invited in and you try to be in people's lives. So I'm in Charlottesville for 6 weeks. I live there. Right. And the first thing I do is have a meal. We've had many meals, right, at my dinner table, right? So, but that's a kind for me. I understand as a kind of a southern form of organizing, which I think places a premium on the quotidian. It's on the everyday. It's not like meetings with charts and.
Man,
You know what I'm saying? It's in the quotidian. It's in of course you need goals, and nobody's not saying all that.
Yeah, early on, he was meeting you to death. It
Yeah,
was just everything and everybody was just
and ain't got no food. I just don't understand it.
Who is this for?
Yeah. Like, what is this? This is not. We're not gonna get no work done this way. In terms of that, right? Because what we learn, right, when you think about our relationship, it's not simply forged in going to do interviews together and strategizing together. It's forced and you coming to my house and me cooking and us praying together at my dinner table and joning about or about Sodan and Sumner, right? It's the quotidian, right? And I think for me another principle, I don't go where I'm not invited. But the other thing is, do you have a fundamentally love for black people?
Off the rip.
Yeah, fundamental. I'm not talking about blackness. I'm not talking about an abstract philosophical idea. I'm talking about, do you love niggas?
At the core.
Do you hear me?
In all they form.
Do folks who drink out of Crown Royal bag?
Still.
Yes, sir. Do you love them?
Yeah.
Huh? Do you love working class? I mean, and I'm not talking about like, again, abstract philosophical discourse. That's important. I do that work, right? I'm talking about, but do you like love them? Do you love the fact that it's sprues? They pour the drinks way too strong.
Yeah.
Right.
This is a hint of juice on it.
That's just
flavored vodka. We created that.
Right. Do you love black folks who went to the Animal House? Right. Remember when it was about 5 London and Sons?
And they was and the line was rap.
And the line, right. But what I mean is like, so do you love them? Do you love the candy lady?
And the politics of that is you gonna call the police on the candy lady.
Yeah.
It's that. And I feel like that's where the divide or the necessity of like training and decolonization comes in. Cause you like the fun part of the candy lady. You wear a shirt, it's fun. But I used to say this all the time in the meetings. We talk so much about the Mike Browns and the Sandra Blands. And we showing up because they did, but do you go to your Mike Browns and Sandra Blands and the Tamir Rices and your family? Is you going to their house? Is they eating over your house too? Because you got it. You the person that took over for Big Mama. It just happened earlier. You supposed to be buying all that and then see who got something on the side. Like I feel like if you don't love those people in your family and hang out with them and have shown that.
But I think the vast majority of black people love their people. Like folks love their cousins, right? Like I got a gang of cousins
on the west side.
Yeah. You know, they all out in the county now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they done moved on.
That new mass migration.
Yeah, so they done moved out, which is fair, right? Because you got to think in St. Louis in the 90s, it just wasn't safe to raise a child. And the people who had options, they took it because of the deindustrialization.
Yeah, well, no job.
Right, you got to think.
Cadillac converters, all them Cork, they were so far out.
Yeah, you got to think.
Winsville or better.
Yeah, so that's where all the jobs were. So, but time, and then I remember when crack came. Like I remember when the Bloods and Crips came.
So you remember in St. Louis?
Yeah, I remember when they came.
First time you seen it was
like, it was interesting. Like, so I saw it around school. But it was interesting. One of the deacons at my church worked at Juvie. And I think the FBI had done a profile or something. And he showed it to the black boys in the church. He was like, hey, man, y'all need to watch out for this. That's the other thing for me is I think maybe I have such a deep love for working class black people. Because working class black people love me so deeply. You know what I mean? They loved me so deeply.
I think that's when you came back, right? Like when you really hit the ground. And hey, cuz, who is this? This a reverend out here? Cuz he got the whole joint out there. I'm like, hey, look at him though. He ain't got no regular. He ain't like West Bishop, whatever over there. He got the whole. He putting it on. Then we came to say something to you. And I was like, man, cause like, look, I don't know, but he said he from the West Side. I'm a West Side baby. I grew up Cabinet Courts. That's when I was Rainbow and Dorsey, and I'm from those kind of hoods.
Off of Holderman.
No, see, that's 1-1. We on 5-7, 5-5. So,
yeah, because the Holderman don't run that far.
Because they miss us. And crazy part is you got to think about it. We talking about on the West Side where 80s, 90s. I know we talk about like Sexy Red era. You pull up off Lilac. You know, you might, because that's where we went. Because, you know, it used to be real nice in Riverview and all that. It looked trailer parks. Like, they just taking your Section 8 out there in no county. They like, come on with it. Spanish Lake too. You know, they had a shooting Burrington Downs in Hazelwood.
Yeah, that's right.
Upper.
I mean, I think it was interesting, probably. So, you know, as folks are watching this, right? St. Louis has 91 municipalities.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of that 91 municipalities, so like you said, Spanish Lake and all of that.
They all found
Bell found Hazelwood, right?
Ferguson,
Pine Lawn,
yeah.
all of that, right? These are places where black people could move out. They were closer to the factories,
Yeah.
right? They had been redlined, so black people that you could buy a house out there. There were places you couldn't buy. So
Mhm.
you're right, and so you created these like small municipalities, and the way in which they survive, right, is through ticketing, right? So like so in 2013, only about 22,000 people in Ferguson, about 30,000 tickets issued.
Everybody, everything moved.
Right. You hear what I'm
And it was
saying?
us.
Right.
We
So
pulled
everything
off.
right,
Yeah.
and all the data, the white papers, and all that. So when you think about all of these places, right, one of the things we saw in terms of like by the time Michael Brown says "fuck you" to him, right, all of that's coalescing.
Mm.
Right, 1/4 of the houses underwater. Right, got apartheid like 2 police, maybe 1 or 2 black police officers, maybe 1 black boy person. Right, it looked like
Mhm.
apartheid at first.
Cause I remember when they was like, we do got a black lieutenant or something, and it was the dude that beat the dude up from Jennings, that beat the dude up in the city who was in Pine Line. Like it was like all the bad. You got all the bad ones.
Cops, all of them.
In St. Anne, you only want to come get off the highway.
I mean, think about Darren Wilson came from Jennings. You was too bad of a police officer to be a Jennings police officer.
They put you out. After this city said you ain't corrupt enough and you ain't good, you bad at shooting too.
Right.
You just ignorant. You're gonna be a liability.
Like the worst one.
Yeah. 98% black. They had to change, but Jennings 10 years later, yeah, you'll send your baby out to school in Jennings. Them people out there is figuring out Gary Johnson, the mayor out of Ferguson, Ferguson protester. He the mayor now. School board full of people that was out there. School is rocking. Football team look good. Everything look good. And I'm saying that to say like, there's a development here that it wouldn't happen without Ferguson, like that. That conversion of angry working class black folk.
I think one of the things about the Ferguson uprising is that what you get is it's one of those unique moments, and there's a line in the cultural studies scholar named Houston Baker. He writes this introduction to Frederick Douglass's biography, and he says, like when Northern Gentilly and former chattel merged, history moved, right? And I think that's something happens. Like, so what we see in Ferguson is that we have poor working class people who are the victims of neoliberalism, right? Who've gotten to the point that they refuse to be disrespected. And then you have an entire multiracial infrastructure built around them. This is unique, right? So you got to think most of our infrastructure is held by St. Louis Palestinian Solidarity Committee, right? Most of them are they holding the infrastructure. So a lot of them are pro-Palestinian, if not anti-Zionist.
Okay,
right? They holding that infrastructure, right? The unions show up, right, through SEIU, those spaces. They
CBTU.
right. So they right. Congregation of Black Trade Unions, right? Culture Nationalists show up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right. That's Mama Jamala and them, right? And
Zaki Brood.
all of them, they show up.
Look like the Congo now when they showing up.
Nations show up to protect us, right? Visibly queer folks out.
They tired with us.
Right. They're right because they are us, right? It's not right. So visibly queer folks out, right? Palestinian solidarity, right. We sent a kid to the White House who had a tattoo on his face,
and they had and and they invited him.
Right. I'm just saying. What I'm saying is that
But that's the push.
right. So what I'm saying is that it like that like right. So it shifts right. Religious institutions struggling to figure it out. They falling all over themselves. They're usually on the wrong side of history, right? But it shifted, right? So you had this multiracial, multi-generational, right? Right. It's that like young people gonna be young people, but in this particular instances, it was also intergenerational. Y'all went out there by yourself.
Okay.
Like people, there were folks, a generation, particularly of Xers, who have been out before you, who had some sense of the political climate and that kind of thing, and gave organizers plenty of room. We were imperfect, of course. There's a lot of different kind of works and mistakes that we made and that kind of thing. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that what you see in this unique moment in time, right, it shakes the foundation, right? You don't get Trump without Ferguson. Y'all done got out of hand.
It's like that Reagan in the California with the
Yeah,
Panthers and Ned
y'all done got out of hand.
Yeah.
Right? It is a response. Right. So that's why when I talk about January 6th, I don't talk about it as they call it an insurgency. It's a counterinsurgency. Right. They rebelling against because they didn't think y'all you done had a black president and you think you're gonna burn it down. Absolutely not. That's a reaction.
Who do they think they are?
Yeah, that's a reaction to that. Now they building the infrastructure for the past, 40, 50 years. But I'm just saying the time right. Right. Sit down. That's why they like him. Why he's so crude and like tough, and he don't take nothing because he gonna put y'all in y'all place. Because you done got too free. Like absolutely not. And so I feel like for me, that's one of the things. Like you got this thing that is happening theologically. It's French philosopher Deleuze would call it a l'éonvent. It was an event where a multiplicity of things happening. In theology, we call it kairos, when God breaks into history. Right, it's one of them moments. It's a very unique moment in the history of the country. Right, because you got to think about it. It's all over popular culture, and in public policy. So the police state is saying, well, it's got the Ferguson effect. We don't want to police like we used to.
Yeah, they got to talk about that from the New York Times to the Breakfast Club. Everything got to talk about it.
Right. That was like, don't police because they'll tear it up if they don't. Right. You got to think it's an unleashing in the country. So between 14 and 16, the country's on fire. It's on fire. It's uprisings everywhere.
McDonald.
They're all over the country.
It's the culture.
It's already, and it's because of what happened in these streets. Right? People are referencing that. Right. Think about it. I just want to say this cultural impact. Right, this is these some little poor kids from Ferguson came up. I got my hands up on my head. Please don't shoot me dead. I got my hands up on my head.
What?
They singing it all over the world. Because of these babies. Right. And so it moved history. Right. So it's not like of what, right? It is the Black Lives Matters movement is born here in this sense, right? Before Black Lives Matters is retweeted less than about 300 times after, right? On a night but the non-indictment, right? This is when the Guardian magazine begins to call it the Black Lives Matters movement, right? It's because Alexis Temple is on national television when they do remember they do the announcement. All the cameras in the world are there. And as soon as they said non-indictment, Alexis Templeton started saying Black Lives Matters. The Guardian called it the Black Lives Matters movement. That's out of here. Right. So by the time, so the way I describe it, if Black Lives Matters is the word, Ferguson is the word made flesh. So I'm just saying, and so it's when it's retweet, and then between by the end of August, right, all the way up until non-indictment night, right? Like it's like retweeted like 7 million times. That's here. Right, that's that.
So how do we? I think I'm going deep because in my mind, right, is being a part of that, being at the first meeting, knowing people and not knowing what it really was at the time, meaning a movement. Period.
Yeah.
Like like we was, that day is Dr. West and me, you, McBride, we all out here. I remember the Bree Newsom came. It was a conversion of culture, rappers coming in. You got Talib Kweli's, you got scholars, you got Rosa Clemente, you got people that's growing into who they are.
Robin D.G. Kelly, the greatest historian of our time.
Taught me in Brazil political education.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so they're coming, so the issue is that is a conversion of movement in a different kind of way, right? Because it's primarily black, poor, and working class. That's what's unique. So it's not the managerial class talking, right? It's not that. It's regular, everyday people. Some in the managerial class, but it's not the professional organizing class.
Those committing class suicide.
Right. So now some of them not committing class suicide because of the fact that they just poor.
Right.
Part
of the managerial class.
Well, right, but I'm talking about the managerial class. So those of us who got master's degrees
and still
working, but right, but we're still managerial, right? I ain't talking about that. We get folks like me who got fancy degrees and who teach at the university, and we know how to talk to foundations. I'm not talking about them people.
Okay.
I'm talking about just regular, everyday, working class
black
people.
Yeah.
Right, and that they were directing it. That's why it had the militancy. Where it looks different in other places, like in Baltimore.
Okay.
Right, where you got a large nonprofit industrial complex. It looked different.
Yeah. It became artsy.
Right, but it's going to look different because the nonprofits are going to squelch that. Right. In part, they're not agile. Right.
Okay.
Because you get your grant. They say that the grant say you got to drink water. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if the people drinking Kool-Aid, you can't drink Kool-Aid. You got to drink water. They tell you what to do. So it controls and a lot of times controls your behavior. And so this is working. We don't have no nonprofit industrial complex here.
Yeah, and
right. Most of the organizing had happened in the labor movement. Like there's a tradition, Ivory Perry.
Yeah.
Right. So there's most of it, right, and the other one has been the most significant portions have been around labor and have been around cultural nationalism. Right, because there's a deep there's a deep Afrocentric culture here, right? That is long standing, right? So I know Mama Jamala when I'm like 16 in St. Louis, right? There's a black cultural nationalist strong tradition here. Khatib Wahid.
Yeah. I grew up as a baby listening to Onion Harden.
Yeah, right. Onion Run, right. There's a different, right. Onion Harden, right. There's a different. So there's a black working class militant, primarily cultural nationalist, right. But it's militant and it's strong and they love us, right. So that's your one infrastructure, and then the union organizing, Fight for 15.
Yeah.
Right, and they was and
Shamil and Janine, them babies,
and they already and
they're the proletariat,
and they gonna be turned up already.
Yeah, off the rip.
Right, so they already turned up. Right, so you got that. All of that's what shapes Ferguson differently, right? Because it was not a strong organizing culture, kind of organizing.
It wasn't none
culture.
of that. Yeah.
Right, in terms of you see what I'm saying, and so that's what makes it so militant. It's working class. There's nothing, right, and its greatest asset is its greatest liability,
which is
these niggas don't give a fuck. That's his greatest asset. His greatest asset.
Hey, look, we was in the Sexy Red era before y'all knew a Sexy Red. That was my cousin and them. Lay up off them. Yeah. Look, I love them. I get it, baby. But them same kids, them tip drill babies.
Yeah. So I'm saying, like that's the greatest asset, and it was the greatest liability.
Yeah,
because
we don't care.
Yeah, they don't care, right? But it could be discipline at moments.
Yeah,
right. So there were beautiful moments of like where we would run multiple actions.
Yeah,
all right, Sekou, you and Cornell and you and the preachers, y'all do y'all little thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna go over here and shut this Walmart down.
Yeah.
We're gonna go shut this highway down.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna do a die-in in U City.
In the loop. Trying to stop your money.
We're gonna go mess with some money in around Christmas time.
Yeah.
Around Christmas time. Right. But I'm saying, you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Right. There were ways in which multiple forms of political organizing could be moved. And for the most part, the anarchist elements were disciplined for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a talk with them. But I'm just saying, for the most part, those elements that would be the most disruptive in terms of like property destruction, for the most part, were disciplined, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then you got to think about it. Think about all the time we spent with gang members.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Really connecting them,
like
squashing that,
all the time we
put
spent
that
with
to the
gang.
side, cuz come on with it.
Right, all the time. Right. I remember. You remember in your office, I did a civil disobedience training with gang members.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's what I'm saying. That's what's so disruptive about it. When it was an IREV, we're gonna do this bullshit because we fuck with you.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm just letting you know,
if that
white boy get off.
Yeah, on me. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They were disciplined. Like you understand what I'm saying? And I'm not saying there wasn't folks getting into it and fighting and fussing. I'm just saying whatever. I'm saying is that what we had in Ferguson were elements of the organized lumpen proletariat and in every class sector. Think about it. There were millionaires in the street with us.
Yeah, fact. Yeah.
Right.
I know some.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right. Every sector, but taking the direction of working class, everyday people. Right. That's a unique moment. I'm not saying it's new. Right. We get that during slave rebellions.
Okay.
We get it right. In terms of, not slave rebellions, more like, the manumission societies.
Okay.
And, the white folks who like Frederick Douglass and kind of them, right?
Right.
They put money in.
The neoliberalism.
Yeah, right. They put money. They put in the money. It's not neoliberalism yet. I think they're authentically progressive at this point.
Philanthropy.
Yeah. I think they're authentically progressive at this point.
Okay.
But they still, I don't know if they want you marrying their daughters and that kind of thing. But I'm just saying they don't think they should be beating you.
Yeah.
Right. So,
easy argument.
That's an easy argument. That's an easy argument, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is that, but like you have that in that historical moment. But I'm saying there are just not a lot of moments like that in U.S. history where it's tactically organized, where you got philosophers and theologians and everybody on the line. Now, and it was room enough where there could be neoliberal forces as well as revolutionary forces. Now, the mistake that we made a lot of times, we assume neoliberal forces were revolutionary forces. And that was a tactical mistake on our part, right? And which led to a lot of the, I think, unnecessary bickering and that. That's not who they said they were.
Mm-hmm. If you would, yeah.
That's not who they said they were. They doing exactly what they said they was going to do. You know what I mean?
I think that's the part where, looking back 10 years later, that's what Ferguson taught me. It's like some of these assumptions based on not only because you black, and I love you off the rip, but I'm seeing you do with, like, we out here together, or you pulled up to kind of support, and we asked this one and that one, and it's like, dang, you still came out a little neoliberal, you still had a little decolonization to do, or like you saying, just saying off the rip, I work for this nonprofit, or I come in this one, or you know what, I don't really mess with them, and here's why. Explain it to me, because now I'm in the room with this, and it's like that's.
But I think part of it is right in terms of organizing.
Okay.
Right. Sekou Touré says the job of revolutionaries is to make counter-revolutionaries work for the revolution. Right. So in terms of organizing. So a lot of times, like when people beefing with one another, first of all, they don't like none of you niggas. None of you. Right? They don't like you in the White House, and they don't like you as a janitor. They don't like none of you. Right? They might tolerate you. But when the right-wing fascist forces come, they're coming for you all.
Everybody.
right? And given the fact that fascism is primarily a class movement, so it's typically middle and upper class. That's the history of fascism in the Western world. And poor white folk. It's gonna be the same people in your class gonna come for you. Right? That's the nature of fascist regimes. So they don't like us anyway. Secondly, everybody got a role to play. Right? Everybody got a role to play.
Everybody.
So that clergy, I don't want to go to jail. I ain't never been to jail with Tracy Blackman. I don't want her to go to jail.
Right.
I just know if I'm in there, she can call the governor. I don't want her in there with me. Meaning that, right? Meaning that folks everybody got a role to play.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like it's not about like, and then and one of the things we have to think organizationally, everything about full confrontation, we're gonna have to move a little differently.
Yeah.
Right, because a storm is coming.
Say more about that.
I think whether Harris wins or not,
okay,
right-wing forces and reactionary forces are going to rear their head. We already see it with the assaults on public education through anti-DEI.
Yeah, that's both classes.
Right. That's what's gonna It's already gonna come through there. They've already come after the Ivy Leagues. They've already made decisions to press student protesting. Right. So those forces.
Yeah, that's off.
Right.
That's
so
off
that's
the table. Don't do that over yonder.
Right. So we got that. They're razor thin margins. Right.
They split.
Right. So razor thin margins.
They agree.
So
except for one thing.
Right. There's razor thin margins in the election. And whether she wins, they're gonna show out the Nazis. Or whether she loses, they're gonna be emboldened. Either way. They coming.
Yeah.
Right. And that the other piece I believe that the pandemic taught us under a Democratic and a Republican administration, the government don't care about us. They'll give you a little piece of check and you be happy with that. But we gotta get y'all back to work.
By any means.
We gotta get y'all back to work anyway. Right? You see what I'm saying? So it's clear to us, right? So when you look at the temperament of the federal government across the board, now am I saying a Trump administration will be different than a Harrison administration? Yes, on some significant areas, right? Like Supreme Court judges are a big deal.
Yeah. I don't like expanding it.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, but it's like that is a big deal.
Yeah,
and and if voting wasn't that important, they sure wouldn't be working that hard to keep us from doing it. So some over there.
Yeah, why you won't let everybody do that?
Yeah. Some over there they don't want us to have. So we probably should be paying attention to that. As the left. Right? I'm not talking about Democratic Party operatives. I'm talking about as the left. We should be paying attention to electoral politics in a different kind of way. And so some of that is the work that you see with, I think, Working Families Party is doing something interesting electorally. DSA was doing something interesting electorally.
How do we,
as well as our dear brother's campaign?
Yeah, Dr. West. How do we as the black poor folk, working class people create political somethings? Like I would love to see a black DSA, a black Working Families Party is created even behind Dr. West. Like for me, I would have liked for that infrastructure to come on and keep going towards 2025 since we all know they coming. Why can't we be having a black, like that 72, not with the, Mary Barack, I'm talking about that black political convention that's organized for real to go do something and take seats.
Well, so this is what the thing it is for me. One, I think he's right on this. We disagree on a few things, but one of my dear mentors says, black people who think they can do it by themselves can't do math.
Okay.
Hold
on, but if it was enough white people to free us, we've been free already.
No, this is what I mean. This is what I mean. That we have to have black spaces of formation. Bell Hooks says we must be all born in the womb of black nationalism.
Okay.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Okay. All that I am. Right. It ain't the fancy schools I've been to. Right. That's right. It's juke joints and churches, right? That's all that I am. And my Uncle Richard's shop. That's all that I am. So I'm not. And so we have to begin there with a deep, like we began this conversation about a deep abiding love for Black people. So you want to begin with that.
Okay.
Will be for me. The second is that you do need Black spaces and that kind of thing. But in terms of to mobilize enough resources
Okay.
in order to contend with the most lethal empire in human history, with the Black woman presidential candidate saying that she will ensure that it remains the most lethal in human history, right? That we might need some friends. I'm just saying, we just might. We best not, huh? We better Espanol. Do you hear what I'm saying? We better learn some Arabic.
I guess.
But what I'm saying is that you can have. So I'm saying,
I
like,
think my Pan Africanism is optimistic enough to be like, I see a revolution going on over there in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. If they win, y'all should be able to kick in because we kicked in, and like I think.
oh no, I'm not.
Because
Yes,
I've also, right, it was hard to do a lot of things in Ferguson, fundraising, trying to go to this foundation. They wasn't messing with me. It was Talib and T.I. and rappers and singers and techies to give to us to make us who we was. We wasn't getting none of that. And I feel like if there's enough white people, because I ain't never seen the money come in, and again, as the Black church, like we said, when, McBride and Tracy Blackman, like you said, it's a strategy. I've been locked up really badly. And I was so thankful that it was a Black prosecutor, a judge, somewhere up yonder, amen. And I might not want you to get arrested with me. I don't want you in the cell. I want you in the office. So I feel like, there's a strategy. Why can't that? What I'm saying is, yes, I would like it to be all Black, but more importantly, I would like to see it to even lean in, because I feel like sometimes we use too much energy coming off of Cori Bush. Cori Bush is a Ferguson protester. Before she's a congresswoman. She one of us. She from the crib.
Yep.
She done gave me a ride, gas money. We eating sandwiches. And that's my homie up there in Congress. Cuz what's up? But at the same time, she come from a city that come from a people who trying to fund that. And she come out of a church, a Black church who, if we look at history, 102, and when further we go back, you go yesterday, the Black church is doing so much. Why hasn't the Black church been that philanthropic group and that even that space to go, hey, cuz I'm not gonna do that. I'm me. I'm finna go organize, keep these gang members organized. But y'all can go over there and do that. Like, what happened to the diversity of tactics and how is it
I think in a place like St. Louis, you do get that.
Okay.
Like, you do get particularly like when you think about caring communities in the 90s.
Okay.
There was a whole Khatib Wahid and others had organized to put in resources in schools. Right. So you had basically these centers that had after school programs with directors. I worked in those programs.
Okay.
Right. So you did an attempt you had that in the 90s or whatever. And then also in our churches, right, people are struggling with questions of Black determination and Black dignity.
Okay.
Right. So they are saying, on one hand, they are saying pull your pants up.
Yeah. Respectability.
They're not on one hand, and also in the face that they are trying to make sense of a world in which
don't make no sense.
that the stuff is coming at them and their kids all the time, and so this is the way they know out.
They off balance. Okay.
Right. This is the way they know out. Right. Like if you dress well, you speak well. Because they're trying to so I've been wearing suits since I was 4. Right. Because I was raised by people who thought speaking well, dressing well was a way out. Right. Because they were trying to protect you. Now, people who think that's going to keep that it is an ultimate armament might be problematic. Right.
Okay.
But I'm saying to you, that's where it's coming from.
It's beneficial.
So I'm saying in the context of the Black church, with all of its contradictions, what it does provide for is bonds of mutuality and trust.
For sure.
Right. And a lot of times, right. So I want to name that. The other piece is that black people are subject to the same kind of contradictions that the rest of the civilization is, and then the question of us organizing them.
Mm.
That's the real
Yeah, I know
question.
where you messed up at.
Yeah.
Let's get together on the stuff we
Yeah,
do agree with.
so the question is how organize them, but you can't organize them from the outside. So one of the things that saved me in the streets of Ferguson, right, is that in the 90s, I buried a lot of these kids' older uncles and
Aunties,
aunties,
mamas,
right? I
yeah.
buried a lot of them. I knew that, like, I went to high school with some of these kids' mamas and parents, right? I was Tef Poe's youth pastor.
I know that.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, so whatever credibility I had in the street had to do with I had been in people's lives,
Mm.
right? That's why I go and live in a city as an organizer.
Yeah, I gotta go feel that.
You see what I'm saying? Right? That's that SNCC model. You got to be among the people.
Mm. So, because I feel like this is a key for me,
Mm-hmm.
and I ain't gonna hold you.
No,
I feel
no.
like
We got all the time,
I
baby.
know, man. What is it now? 10 years later, though. Like, where do you see it now? We understand that the black left, the culture nationalists, we gonna always be around. The pain that we gonna always be here.
Mm-hmm.
We understand that there is kind of like ebbs and flows in the movement where based on economic conditions, you can create a conjunctural analysis and kind of feel that when you get there. Cause I feel like that's a key. And knowing that we gonna be doing the work anyway. What is that diversity of tactics? What should we been
I
learning?
mean, I think
10 years later.
I think in terms of diversity of tactics, is that we need freedom fighters in every level,
Okay.
in every space, and I make a distinction between freedom fighter and an ally,
Okay.
right? Because freedom fighters got blood in the game, right? So it's not that I'm gonna come and I'm gonna be an ally alongside an oppressed group. I understand that my liberation is connected to theirs, right? Right. Because one of the great myths of the American empire is that white people are free. They think they free.
There's somebody else slave.
Well, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right. And so the issues that are all our, and this I'm quoting the great Ruby Sales here, is that so us understanding that part of the crisis is a spiritual crisis, right? So white supremacy actually deforms the constitution of your being, right? It's like in that sense, that's the kind of sin it in. It morphs you. It undermines your humanity as a white person. The same way homophobia morphs me and undermines my humanity in terms of my relationality to gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender persons. Right. For me to disdain who they are.
Yeah.
It's the disdain part. It's gonna get on you. Right. You can't carry that around. And so if you understand that the freedoms so white folks will understand that they trying to get free too. Right. And so that's what solidarity is. That's not allyship. Right. That's about I'm a freedom fighter. I am alone, right? Because that's one of the things that Ferguson taught us. The white people we trusted took ass whoopings with us. They were tear gassed with us. They were surveilled with us. They were harassed at their work with us. Not alongside, not as an ally. They had blood in the game. Right? Because they understood that there was something in them at stake. Right? And so I'm saying that's a different orientation to the world. Right? And so what I'm saying is I'll take white Mo Costello over most of the preachers in town.
Mm.
Take that old lesbian. Over most of them Negro preachers.
Mm.
Right?
They been selling, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
they gon' I want to know. That's what I'm saying. So that's the first is like, of course. Now I begin with a deep love for my people.
Yeah.
I wanna, you know what I'm saying? You
Just
hear me?
I ain't just, I ain't gonna put you over the money.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love you that much, but
yeah,
I ain't no
yeah,
fool.
yeah. But I'm just I
Yeah.
love black people. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying I don't begin on that side of town.
Facts.
I'm not saying that I don't want to support black businesses and all that. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying to you, when it's all done,
And you tallying
when them
it up.
riot police out there, right? And they shooting our baby. Where you at?
Mm.
That's what I want to know. Right.
Yeah,
all that, like, we can talk about our cultural connection, and I am glad you know how to play slide. And that you know how to do double dutch, and that
shame.
I appreciate culturally identify with you deeply. That's important.
Yeah,
I live for that. But the real
they was
question,
shooting us with that, man. Where was y'all at?
yeah,
man?
where are you? Where you at? And I'm
Yeah.
saying to you, there was white folk alongside black people who were in solidarity, Asian folk, all kind. We had Latinos, 150 Palestinians march with us. It's the Palestinians who are tweeting us. Right. And I ain't talking about something I read in the book.
Yeah. Some we was
Right.
I was present.
Right. When I was in Palestine, I saw the drills that the Israelis ran in 2011. And then when I came here, and you remember the first conversation I had with you and Tiff, we about to get interviewed together. I said, tell me what the police doing to you. And you told me, I said, oh, them Israeli drills.
You did.
Because that's what they ran on us, and what I saw it in when I was in Nabi Sela in Palestine. Right? I'm saying, so the issue is that, but because of that, right, is also because Palestinians are in solidarity with us, right? And they're also, to be honest, there's Zionist Jews out there. To be honest, we have to tell the truth about that. And there were tensions.
Palestinians at the gas station. There's Jews that ain't doing this.
Yeah, right. There was tensions there.
Yeah.
Nobody's not saying that. That's also unique about Ferguson. There's enough
Yeah.
room politically
for everybody to go organize everything and everybody.
Right. Enough room, right.
So we can all get there together.
Right. So there was enough room, right? So you could have Zionist Jews, who are opposed to the treatment of black folks in the U.S. don't have an analysis on Palestine, right? But that analysis is showing up because Cornell is talking about it, Dr. West is talking about it, Palestinians are there. Like, one of the first pictures ever me taken out here, I got a keffiyeh on.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how I met you.
Right. So what I'm saying is that there are ways in which there was a broadness in the movement that allow you to wrestle with fundamental questions as it relates to the various ways in which the empire's mechanisms were coalescing on people's bodies. And so that for me, that's what is unique about this moment. I'm gonna keep on coming back to that because I don't think folks have fully understood it. Right, looks very different. Right, it's very different, and it's poor, and it's working class, and it's militant. Right, this looks very different. But anyway,
I just want to say, man, thank you. This conversation for me was therapeutic. I lost a lot doing Ferguson, and that pandemic was cold too. And I know that's real, and I feel like you bring that out in me. I want to say I appreciate you for that. Keeping the movement here in St. Louis, letting me know, because it's a gap between some of the people you named. They 70, 80 years old. You let me know it wasn't that long of a gap when we was trying and we was becoming successful in. So I appreciate you for that. I appreciate you for keeping us on the political side, like understanding how to move that. All the trainings, being real enough to come to the Hands Up United office and train gang members in our office. and they strapped up and they don't have gun safety yet. We just got here. So, the gun then went off a couple times. And being really, it's a couple, Booker on the west side. It's a couple who came out. Most of the pastors came out at night, but you was one of the ones that was in the trenches with me. And a lot of us, and you name the people and you still in it. I appreciate you deeply. I needed this therapy. I missed you. I really do. And I'm a G, I ain't gonna cry. Thank you for being a hometown kid that grew up to be a hometown hero from the Lou, from the west side, same streets that I done walked. Our families know each other, families, and then we finding cousins and them out here. That's the west side. Thank you for just being that real for me, Sekou.
Thank you. No, I appreciate this conversation. Where your folk from?
Like before her?
Yeah.
I'm a G from the west side. My daddy from East St. Louis. From the South End. That means something to me. Go over there, Charlie Park, watch the park, all that. Where they say don't go. I love to go. And my mama family, St. Louis by the way of Mississippi, by the way of Jackson and Natchez and South Carolina. We going back. We can go back, and we trace that all the way back to Senegal, West Africa through slavery. That's our trajectory. So my daddy is East St. Louis, Alabama. They stayed there until they moved to East St. Louis. They only moved because of the I don't want to say a riot, the white terrorism that happened in East St. Louis that drove black people over here because we just had that booming. In Alabama, Mississippi.
What is this, 1919?
Yeah, 1919. Yeah.
Red Summer.
That's
200 race rides.
Yeah. Wilmington, Delaware, where Biden family from, all of that.
Elaine, Arkansas.
Yeah.
And so they come off the boat in South Carolina.
Just come off the boat from West Africa.
And then they
colonized by the French.
And they go to Mississippi. And
they go to South Carolina. And some of them escaped. But out Mississippi, my daddy family, they went to New Orleans, Passe Blanc. And I actually learned through Ferguson that my middle name come from my grandfather who was killed by the police when my daddy was 2 years old. He didn't tell me until he was at the family reunion in August in 2014 while I was protesting, and my cousin Randy said, Uncle Sonny, Tara on the TV, man. Come on. And everybody can't say that. He called me on the phone. He said, son, I'm watching NBC and CNN. That look like you on there. And I said, yeah, Daddy, that's me on MSNBC. He said, man, and Randy dragged, hey, man, I told you I knew it was you. So it was one of the moments where I knew. And then he said, well, I did that too. I helped integrate the post office down south. They wouldn't let them down there in Birmingham. That's why our family left and went up to East St. Louis.
He making too much trouble.
And then he said, I'm named after my grandfather, Emmanuel Russell. Passe Blanc, real light skin. Learned this through Australia. 3 generations of forced rape like Malcolm. Real light skin, he could pass for white. And he lost his job because he kept going to the black point of town. And when his white employees kept following him, he said, well, I got some property over there. And they said, then weeks later, they said, we checked the scrolls. You ain't got no property. I ain't got property. I mean, look, color gal I like, but don't tell my wife. I got a woman. And so they followed him and said, no. After a year, they was like, no, you white. I mean, you black. And they fired him. And then he had to go back and figure it out. He was, back then, he was hungry. So people would throw the potatoes and bread off the train. And he was throwing the money back. And then the police were like, stop. And he ran. They shot him in the back, ran home. My daddy was 2, held him. Said, I want him to, when I leave, I want to at least have this with me, my son. This is my grandfather only son. So if it wasn't for Ferguson, I wouldn't have known that about myself. I wouldn't have known that I come from revolutionary people that was fighting in Senegal at the same time when the slavery was going on. When we tracked it, we was St. Louis back then. It might have been St. Louis in the Francophone. We was on that type of time, and I feel like,
what do you
man, that's the thing.
what has been your political assessment of the moment? Like, what do you think we are now in light of 10 years?
I'm gonna start with my Afro pessimism.
Boo.
So I can get it out the way.
Okay.
Man, we got everything right here on the table, cuz what's up? Like, it's not a person. I ain't never not met a black person who wouldn't own it and couldn't do it. We ain't figured out no way for all of us to create motion together and get there. It's frustrating for me where we got resources, we got money, and it's legal now too. Washing machine got real good like the Rockefellers, and Fords and them. And we got some smart people that's just scientists, doctors, and things, and figured it out. We ain't got no continuity. I think my optimism leads me to say though, we got all the tools though, and we going after land. I think a lot of times in Ferguson in the movement, we wanted to ask a race question to black people. It's not race, it's class with us. It's internal. What's up? Where you at? It's the love in the class. It's the because I know you love me. If you ain't gonna let my baby starve or make or see my baby with no hat on, and it's cold, and you got the money for throwing hats. So come on now. I feel like that's what created Ferguson, and I feel like that's my optimism that we got enough resources, we got enough smart, talented people. That's what we say in the IBFA. We believe that black people are smart enough, resilient enough, resourceful enough, intelligent enough, skilled enough to free ourselves with or without y'all. So if nobody ever come, or the tables that we say the 10% of the 5 of us go organize everybody else and it don't get off, we good enough on our own to get free. And I feel like we strategic enough to do that now. I would love to see it in my lifetime.
So for me, it makes me think about what we were talking about earlier around the question of why not a black DSA? Why not? I do question the ideological numbers. Right. Now we got numbers
Yeah, we got number.
in terms of people, 33 million people is a lot of people.
I'll say 45.
Right.
They count, but they don't give us the real
Yeah,
number.
right. So you gotta right.
We 1.8 billion around the world.
Well, right, in terms of around the world. But the division is ideology.
You don't think it's methodology?
Mm-mm.
You don't think it's how we get free? It's we questioning if or what?
No, I think it's an ideological question. It's like what we believe freedom looks like.
Okay.
All right. So if I'm in a petty bourgeois on the African continent and they sent me to a fancy school, they're gonna help me stay in power. And I can drive fancy cars. The reward is to give them all the minerals. Right? That's an ideological question. Right. And I believe in neoliberalism. Right? I believe that this is right. That's ideological.
Okay.
Right. Black people are still subject to the same ideological constructions as white folks, right? It's not like we exist outside of what's happening ideologically in the country, right? So black people want it to look like a lot of black people in their theological and political forces want it to look like the very thing they're critiquing.
Okay.
So they want black billionaires. I'm saying I don't think they should exist.
Fundamentally.
Right?
That's the ideal of it.
Right. Like when people ask me, do I believe in if and does Israel have the right to exist? I don't believe any state should exist. Right? That's an ideological question. Right? Right? All governments lie, even the ones we like. Right? So the question then is on ideological. So it's not like I'm saying the ideology is what helps present it. Right? So Oprah wants a demand, she says. Now, plenty have been out. But she wants something that she believes leads to a preservation of a certain kind of political structure.
Fundamental.
Like fundamentally, right? Right. Like, so I'm just saying, right? That's an ideological question. Right. So if you ideologically believe that the American empire is just and moral, it just needs a little tinkering.
Yeah, we ain't on the
Right. That's an
the
ideological.
idea.
Right. That's an ideological. That's ideological. So that's gonna be approach to it. Right. So if you think the success for Black people is primarily an integration into a capitalist economy versus a reimagining the economy, right? So all your primary solution is going to be entrepreneurial. Like, so if we just get enough access to capital, you see what I'm saying?
That's that Black capital.
Right. Like those are ideological questions,
Class,
right? Right. So I'm saying there are things in terms of like, so when people like, well, so and so and so and so want, while we fighting each other, they want the same thing. Actually, they don't. They don't want the same thing. That's not true. They might be Black. They want to live in a world in which Black people have dignity and some forms of self-determination.
Okay.
But those forms of self-determination are often obscured by what kind of economic system that they want to be a part of.
Okay. Idea.
Right. So they said Black dignity is an important thing.
Yeah. But they ain't all too.
Right. That's an important thing. Black self-determination, right? These are important things. But I'm just saying that a lot at the same time they exist within a framework in terms of what you believe structurally and what you believe ideologically. So a lot of it is an ideological question, right? So so that's what I mean when we wind up in these situations where we wind up calling somebody like DeRay a sellout. DeRay never said he was anything other than who he said he was. But
he was who he was.
he never said that. He never said he was a revolutionary.
And we made the mistake.
We made him right because we're in a revolutionary moment. Right? So we attributed to something that he never said he was. Right? Did he have a role to play? Yes.
Yeah.
Right? We can't. Them tweets was important.
Because I ain't tweeting.
Right. They were important. They showed violations of First Amendment rights.
It was narration.
It was narration. It was keeping like that was important.
It's needed.
Right. So that's not.
It just wasn't gonna be revolutionary.
It wasn't gonna, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't. Yeah. That was not where it was. I'm just saying that. So what I'm saying is these are ideological choices.
Okay.
Right. So for some people, it's wound up being having position or job or access or resources within the framework of a system that I would argue that's morally bankrupt. Now we got to contend with the system. So like, I think you should pay workers living wages in this system. I think people should get paid and give free health care in this system. I think they should have decent housing. I think the police should not be able to kill without impunity. I think children should have access to great education. In particular, like I want the system at bare minimum. I don't want it suffocating my people. Right. So I understand that. So that's why I engage in reformist efforts. Right. In terms of that. And I also want to be in proximity of where my people are moving. Right. So like, for instance, Charlottesville, you mentioned it, right? Statues really wasn't my thing.
Okay.
I wasn't like, I didn't wake up one day and be like, we should tear that statue down.
Right.
I didn't really care about them. I was like, right. But that's where the people were. The people were on the move. And so I understood two things. If that's where the people are,
that's where I'm going to be.
That's where I'm going to be. Even when I disagree with them. Same thing when I was like, I cussed y'all out plenty of times at my dinner tables. Like, that was dumb. But but if that's where you're gonna be, I'm gonna be. The other pieces are, so if the people call you, you be where the people call you to be, whether you agree with it or not, and you serve the people.
You serve.
And you serve the people, right? So you do that. You'll always have to do that. That's the first task as an organizer. Where the people at? I'm gonna be there.
And I'm gonna go serve.
and I'm gonna go serve the people. And then, and the people gonna teach me something, and I'm gonna teach them something. It's gonna be a dialectical exchange.
This 10-year for me
Mm.
has taught me so much, like tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say thank you, Sekou, man.
Always, baby.
Appreciate you for being the realest in the streets. Look, y'all. As you can see, me and Sekou, we be in here rapping. I know some of this gonna get cut down. We gonna share the link so we can share the whole conversation with the depth. Cause we finna keep rapping. But thank y'all for watching another episode of Witness to History Ferguson 10. As you can see, Reverend Dr. Sekou joined us. Appreciate you.
Always, baby. Good to see you, black man.
Connected to Dr. West, who connected me, who name comes out of Kwame Ture and that elder struggle and them training and this training and I get trained, in my head, some of my real life organizing is coming from that Stokely. That pipeline, that Pan-African revolutionary pipeline. And as you can see, we're going to hold these conversations every time, all the time on Witness to History, Ferguson 10. I'd like to thank y'all for watching another episode. Thank y'all. See y'all next time. Peace, black people.